Hey, welcome. I am Maciek. I'm your realtor, and today I'm joined by my brother Peter, who's going to be asking just a couple questions about real estate as someone who is not in the business and just wants to learn. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, thanks, man. So, yeah, I don't know very much about real estate at all. And you've tried to tell me a bunch of times, and, just kind of goes through my head. But the things I really wanted to know was there's three questions. The first one is what do I have to look out for when getting a loan? Okay, with bad credit, especially with bad credit.
Okay, so bad credit is definitely an obstacle for people. However, it's not, you can't get a loan if you have bad credit. There's no like fine rule. But one of the things you have to pay attention to is, how bad is your credit? So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that regulate a lot of the loans, they make all the rules. They do have limits on how low it can go. Now, officially, if you read the paperwork, it says 580 credit score. From my experience, I've been licensed almost 20 years. Never have I seen anyone with a 580 get a loan.
Okay.
The minimum is truly like 620. That's like a real baseline to go by. Now, does that mean it's not possible? No, it is possible. But usually with a bad credit score, you usually have high debt ratios, debt to income ratios. But if you have just a bad credit score and everything else is perfect, like you earn a lot of money, you have zero debt, you have a great history of paying things on time, but maybe your credit score is low on something else, there's all these other things that fall into this answer, right? But you might actually get a loan at 582 or something like that.
Okay.
But really try to set yourself up for a better than the lowest entry point, because your rate that they lend you money at is affected by this. So if you're on the high risk, low credit score, your interest rate is going to be higher. If you're in the 650 to 680, you're going to have a better credit score than the lowest. And then if you're from 680 to 720, that's the next tier. That's another credit difference in terms of the rate. And lastly, of course, above 720, doesn't matter you have an 820 or if you have a 725, that's pretty much going to be the golden, interest rate that you can get. And that goes with you for 30 years unless you refinance or sell, but that goes with you for 30 years. So it's better almost to prep yourself for like a year, two max. You can fix your credit score completely in 2 years, and really get, and by completely, I don't mean an 810, but I do mean you can get it up to, a good old 680 or something, with a diligent plan to pay down debts, apply for the right credit cards so that you have numerous lines of revolving credit and keeping that revolving credit ratio low. Anyway, if you have, like more questions, it's really a deep dive.
Well, just like really one follow-up is like, let's say my credit is 550 or something,
Okay.
and I have to get it up to 620, right?
Okay.
The second I get it up to 620, that's not like the bank's like, hey, awesome.
No, this
Right?
is actually the second thing that banks look at when
Oh,
it comes to
okay.
getting a loan. The first thing, it's important, is the second most important thing, your credit score, because that shows your credit worthiness, your history, how you have behaved to lenders, basically, right? Because a credit card is basically
Okay.
like a loan, right?
Yeah.
It's a revolving credit line. That's really what it is. But that's the second most important thing. The most important thing is your what they call the repayment ability. So you need to have, you can get away with a little less, and there's always exceptions, but you basically need to show them 2 years of tax returns. That's like the basis that you should aim for. That when added together and divided by 2, that number is going to meet the debt to income ratios, DTI. I highly recommend you do some like research and Googling
Yeah,
of
okay.
how are debt to income ratios for house loans calculated. It's pretty simple, but it's very unique to every individual. So your ability to repay is way more important than your credit score. But what happens is once you start fixing your credit score, you tend to be more fiscally responsible, and you start trying to figure out, how can I be better with the income that is coming in? And even if you may have a low paying job, like $25,000 a year or something, that is okay. You can still get loans at $25,000 a year, just not the like $650,000 house, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you have no debt, you have no car loan, you have no credit card loan, no credit card debt, I should say, but you do have credit cards, then you're basically going to qualify for something. And I bet you I can find you a condo in
Okay,
Sarasota,
wow.
not like, Northport or like cheaper areas, but in Sarasota for that kind of situation.
Okay. All right. So the second question I have is, when going to get a loan, what do I need to look out for? Like, what are the things that I have to make sure I have, or the things I need to consider,
Yeah.
before even bothering? Because
Yeah, so first and foremost is your tax returns. You need to have your tax returns filed and done. I know that, I don't know the statistics, but there's a lot of people in the US that do not file their tax returns. Another one is you need to have a bank account, like a primary bank account that your income gets deposited into, because this is how you prove that you're making money. And it should be hopefully the same place where all expenses are paid
Okay.
from. Now, if you have numerous bank accounts, like I have some rentals, right? So I have a separate bank account for each rental. So when I provide my bank statements to the lender, I have to actually get all the bank statements from every single bank
Oh, okay.
account for the last, usually only about 2 to 3 months. Sometimes they might ask for more if there's like some weirdness going on or something. So you need to provide your tax returns. You need copies of that for the last 2 years. If it's after April 15th, they usually want the most recent one, like in this case, we're in 2023.
Right.
They would want the one from 2022.
Okay.
But if it's like before that, then they understand a lot of people don't file it, so they'll ask for 2020 and
Okay, yeah,
2019,
yeah,
And then also, or I should say 2021 and 2020. And also, you need when qualifying, when applying for a loan, you need to have an understanding of how much you want to spend. Now, the bank is going to limit you. They're going to say your debt to income ratio cannot be more than this. An FHA loan is a little bit different than a conventional loan,
Okay.
and a VA is different than a USDA loan, and so on. But they're going to give you some guidelines so that once you've provided the paperwork, once you've done everything, you might say, hey, great, I want to buy a house for $350. But they're going to say, well, you could only shop up to 275 or something, or whatever it is that your debt to income ratios say that you can afford. And then I always recommend, do not buy the maximum what they recommend. Now this is like a golden nugget here, okay? Because if you're going to be a real estate investor, this is so important that I can even slap it into you if I wanted to. Just get this. If the bank qualifies you for a conventional loan, 5% down, which is the lowest you can put down on conventional. Actually, you could do 3, but different story. And they qualify you for $275, knowing that you want to become an investor and you may want to buy another property 3 years from now after you save up enough down payment. I'm going to tell you, don't buy something for $275.
Okay.
Rough it out. Go to buy, not necessarily condo, but buy the cheapest property for your monthly expenses. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, plus homeowners association, right, or condo association. Get the cheapest number so that maybe you're only buying something for, instead of using 50% of your debt to income ratio, you're only using 32%. And the reason I say that is because on the next house that you buy, it's affecting your debt to income ratio less.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So unless you had an income increase, your ratio will stay the same. It will just follow you, right?
Okay.
If your payment stays the same, it might go up slightly because insurance and taxes goes up slightly. Your income is here, and it'll just follow you from year to year.
Okay.
But if it rises, great. Your debt to income ratio
Yeah.
on this expense goes lower. But now you're adding another huge segment, right?
Okay.
And it has to be no more than 50%.
Right.
So they're going to look at all your expenses that are being reported on your credit bureau, your TransUnion and everything like that. Also, when it comes to the credit, don't use TransUnion's number when you check Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. It's the FICO score, not the other scores
Oh,
that they
okay.
have. They have some other proprietary algorithm that is kind of accurate, but it's never perfect. Go on your credit card, and usually your credit card will give you a free FICO score from Experian or someone. So use that as your basis of where your credit score is, you know?
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And so the final question is, let's say I get my credit score up and I have like all this figured out, and, you know, and let's say I'm even going to get the loan, right? Where in Sarasota what are the good neighborhoods to buy in? Like, what is either for investment or for family? Just tell me what you know.
Okay, so you know, the answer is it depends, because affordability is one component to it. So if you're a fully pre-approved buyer, you have to first look at, well, what are you pre-approved for? How much are you pre-approved for? And you know, for you, you have 2 kids, so you may want to prioritize the schooling district over just the price or a safe neighborhood or something. You may want to say, I need to be in this school district no matter what, because that's where all their friends are, and it's important to keep friendships and keep them happy, keep your children happy in that way, as long as the school is adequate for your, you know, for your levels of what you want them to go through. So when it comes to where is it good to buy in Sarasota, you know, what's the budget? Let's just make up a number.
Okay, well, let's say I can buy a house for, wow, I don't even know what the minimums are right now, but let's go low, right? So let's say 250, 300,000.
Okay, so for 250 or 300, I'm going to be recommending a non-deed restricted community, as long as you're not talking about condos. This is for single family homes,
yeah.
right? Non-deed restricted community. A great area that has over 2,100 homes is Sarasota Springs. So it's all 4 corners of McIntosh, that goes north to south, and Weber. Okay? All 4 corners there, those were all developed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even some in the 80s. And that area has a lot of concrete block, mostly concrete block structures. It's a little mix, you know. It's like, it's not just like straight roads with like a grid. There's some roads that kind of curve around and things like that. There's some lakes. There's some old vegetation, like big old oak trees and stuff like that. So it has a little bit of a character to itself. But since there's no deed restrictions, you might end up with some you know, trailer parking in the side yard, or an RV that someone travels with, or
neighbors,
something,
right?
a boat parking. You know, you might get a little bit of that. You can't tell the neighbors what to do, and you can't enforce anything other than the county rules, because it is in Sarasota County officially. It's not within city limits. The negative to that neighborhood is that you don't get to pick your neighbors. Right? Like you can get anything. You got people with 14 trailers. But the positive is that as an entry level, you're in pretty good schools. You know, and I don't know all the schools. I think it just depends exactly where you are. It's such a large community. But I think you get Riverview High School there. You know, you get some pretty good options for schooling. So knowing that schooling is usually important for a lot of people who are, you know, under retiring age, you have to look at bang for your buck, what can I get? And I believe concrete block structures are important. Size of the lots are important. They do have, you know, pretty decent sized lots there, because they planned it such a long time ago. They used to give a little more room. They're all public streets, no homeowners associations on top of that. Taxes are reasonable, but that's like a county thing in general. And I think that location-wise, it's also really good. Being near Bee Ridge and Weber, you can go up to the Fruitville corridor or the Bee Ridge corridor, getting to the interstate or the beach. I mean, it's really centrally located for everything except for like maybe Lakewood Ranch. Like you can't get to Lakewood Ranch in a jiffy, right? Like it's going to take you a while to get over there. So that is a good one. And if you have a little more money, a very similar neighborhood, similar rules, similar everything, but more money, is Southgate. And Southgate, you know, a lot of people send their kids over to Southside Elementary. That's you know, depending on where you are in Southgate, right? Because there is like a clear line. Also, you might be in the city of Sarasota versus county, because the line kind of crosses there. But that's also another one if you want to go to downtown, it's really close just to get on 41 and
Yeah.
go up. Or if you want to get to the beach and take, Siesta Drive over to Siesta Key and cross the bridge. So Southgate is probably a good 30 to 50% more per square foot that you pay.
Than the other place. Yeah, 'cause
Sarasota Springs.
Because
Yeah.
I heard that it's like more expensive. Definitely, I heard
It
it's
is
still
definitely
okay,
more
but
expensive,
yeah.
and because of that, people tend to be, I don't want to say affluent, but
Yeah.
on a little better level. So you're going to see nicer cars, a little bit less crime. Not that these places have a lot of crime, but you're going to have a little bit less of that, and you're not going to be seeing as many trailers and stuff. You're going to see more retirees in
Okay.
Southgate because they just bought their home outright or whatever it is, or their seasonal home became their permanent residence, and
Okay,
they have
okay.
nothing to do but mow the lawn and keep everything absolutely perfect, right? So Southgate is another really good non-deed restricted area.
Awesome.
That's well located, and I love Southgate. It's a good
Yeah,
place.
I've always liked that place.
So, Peter, thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate it. Now, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, let me know. I'm going to be doing videos on a regular basis, answering questions from you guys and all my past clients and friends and everyone I know. My name is Maciek. I am your realtor. If you have any questions, please give me a call. My number is 941-888-SOLD. You want to do a quick search? Go on Sarasota, sarasota.com.